thing I find interesting about this movie is the director, Joshua John Miller, who was the son of Jason Miller, who plays the priest in the original Exorcist. What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is OCD Movie Reviews. My name is Owen the Brinker, and today I'm going to review another horror film that came out this year, and that movie is The Exorcism. This movie is directed by Joshua John Miller, and this movie stars Russell Crowe, Ryan Simpkins, Sam Worthington, Chloe Bailey, Adam Goldberg, and David Hyde Pierce. A troubled actor begins to unreveal while shooting a horror film. His estranged daughter wonders if he's slipping back into his past addictions or if there's something more sinister at play. Now, I'm just going to get this right off your chest. This is not a sequel to The Pope's Exorcist. Some people think this is a sequel to The Pope's Exorcist because Russell Crowe is once again in a religious type of horror film. This time Russell Crowe is playing an actor who is playing a priest. He's not playing a priest like he did in The Pope's Exorcist, so that's a fact here. And the only thing I find interesting about this movie is the director, Joshua John Miller, who was the son of Jason Miller, who plays the priest in the original Exorcist. So now his son is basically directing an exorcism type of film. And I watched this movie blind, not knowing what to think of this movie. All I know is that Russell Crowe is in the film. I know the director now because I researched after this film. So I'm not expecting anything particular. I'm just expecting it to be a fine horror film like The Pope's Exorcist was. But oh my gosh. I did something that I have not done in a while for films. I actually walked out of this film from the third act. That, to me, is how shit The Exorcism is. I didn't give a shit what happens in the third act because from the first two acts that I saw with The Exorcism, it is one of the most boring films that I have ever seen this year. Russell Crowe is the best part about this movie. I wouldn't say it's his fault. It's just the way they've written his character. But his performance in the film, he definitely does try in this film. And with the concept of like a cursed movie set, because of course that happens before with some horror movies that's actually been filmed. So taking that concept, that could have been interesting for a movie. But man, the story, the way this film is written, and just the overall tone of the film, it just doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it trying to be a father and daughter drama story about overcoming an addiction, or it's trying to be a horror film because the film itself doesn't know what it wants to be? Ryan Simpkins, who plays the daughter in the film, she just doesn't seem like she wants to be in this film. Her acting is so bland and just boring in the film that I didn't even care about their chemistry in this film because that's the biggest importance in the film. It's taking from perspective of Ryan Simpkins' character, seeing her own dad becoming crazy. And none of it interests me in this film because the dialogue and the overall tone in the story, I didn't care for because of how boring it was. There is nothing that actually blew my mind about this film except maybe a couple of gory deaths that's actually kind of cool. But that is it. Nothing about the story of The Exorcism I was invested in. I literally walked out of this movie for a reason because I was so bored throughout the film and I didn't even care for it. Even some of the outer actors are just completely wasted in this film, like Sam Worthington, for example, who is basically just there. I was like, holy shit, I didn't know Sam Worthington's in this film. And he did nothing in this film. He's just there. So the other actors, even Chloe Bailey is there for no apparent reason. It's like a small paycheck with the other actors coming into this film without doing anything in this film. That's basically it. But still, with the story when it comes to this movie, I didn't care. The horror scenes, again, you know what is coming. I just gotta say, guys, this is a pretty shit year for horror films so far. There's a lot of terrible horror films that came out this year, and a lot of generic ones like this movie right here. And it's a shame because Jason John Miller, he has potential. He has potential to make good horror films because of taking from his dad when he's in horror films. It could have been much more interesting, and I think this is his directorial debut. And look, He directs some shots very well. I think the cinematography looks pretty decent for a film like this. But just the overall writing of this film is the problem with this movie. And also, this film, I don't know if it's the projector or anything, but when I saw this film looks really freaking dark to the point where you don't see what the heck is happening. I don't know if it's just because of the projector. If it's the projector, it has nothing to do with the film. But when I see the film, I was just like, I'm not seeing anything. I am not seeing what is going on in the background. I'm not seeing what's happening with the horror scenes because of how really dark the film is. The sound is there, but I'm just not seeing anything at a couple of moments of the film. The film is like a dark horror film, sort of like Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Like, you can't see what the heck is going on within this movie. But literally, I walked out of this movie for a reason, because from the first 2 acts, I was completely bored. I didn't give a shit about the characters in the film. Russell Crowe tries in the film, but his character is very generic. It is another horror film that's very stereotypical, a plot that could have been very interesting, but the execution just didn't turn out as well. It's just plain simple for me. This is just a generic exorcism film with a plot that could have been so great, but the film just turns out one of the most boring horror films that I've ever seen. Overall, guys, The Exorcism, just don't waste your time with this one. This is definitely a horror film that has some good casting, but the direction and the story of the film, I just did not care about because of how boring the film is. The film literally doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it trying to be a father and daughter story, overcoming addiction story, with an exorcism story in it? This film doesn't have any right to be a horror film because the film just doesn't know what it wants to be. And look, Jason John Miller, I want him to still direct films. He could definitely improve. It's just a directorial debut. None of the directorial debuts are perfect, but this is not a great start for him because The Exorcism overall is, I would say, the worst horror film that I have seen this year out of the worst horror films that I've seen this year. Guys, don't see The Exorcism. Don't even waste your time. Even if you see Russell Crowe in it, it doesn't help. This film is just as generic as you think it's going to be. I don't think anyone, knows this film, really. I just saw it on Hyde, so I'm like, oh, Russell Crowe's in a horror film. Another priest horror film. Let's check it out. And I wasn't expecting to be this terrible, to be honest with you. I gotta say, for The Exorcism, this film is definitely a one big pile of shit. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching my review of The Exorcism. I'm not gonna tell you what you think of the film, because please just don't check out this film. I'm going to give you this question. What is your favorite possession movie of all time? Let me know that in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contacting with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel now for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.